So today's project is we're going to do a quick connect compression tester. So we're going to pull out the spark plug and we're going to check each cylinder on compression. So by doing the test, we're going to use the Pittsburgh Quick Connect Compression Tester. Really, you can use any tester. This is just something that I picked up, and it works really well. It's very simple and basic. Basically, this is what it comes with. It comes with a gauge with a quick pressure release, and it comes with 3 connections that fits in different spark plug cylinder, and then you just connect this nozzle to these connection here once you plug these into each cylinder. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it done. So most of the time when you do a compression test is one, either you're detecting a head gasket leak, bad head gasket, or maybe piston is wearing out, the piston ring, and each cylinder is misfiring. So with this, we're going to test if it holds compression. Well, not compression, but once we test the compression, if it hits the PSI where it's supposed to hit in each cylinder, then compression should be good if it hits spec. And you can look up the specs for every vehicle. Either call the dealer, look it up online, or just, you know, it might be in your manual. But with this being said, let's go ahead and get the test done and see how each cylinder shows. So a lot of times when a vehicle goes in and it's kind of idling funny, or the engine is shaking or whatnot, and they take it to the shop or whatever, a lot of the shop will do a compression test. That's probably a main test that most mechanics will do, or technician. And why do an engine compression test? Well, because sometimes you run into a rough idle or a misfire condition. And on your OBD2, if there's a engine light that pops up, sometimes the following misfire codes will be, the trouble codes would be P0300, and that's multiple misfires, or P0301, P0302, P0303, P0304, and that follows like P0301 is cylinder 1, of course, and then 302 is cylinder 2, 303 is cylinder 3, 304 is cylinder 4. And it could be a few things. It could be just spark plugs, coils, wires, or it could be the reason why we do the compression test is to see if the cylinder is not leaking, or the piston ring or the piston or whatever is not failing or whatnot. If it goes towards that direction, then you have a major problem. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and do a compression test and see what happens. The first thing you want to do on a compression test is you want to take all the spark plugs out of each cylinder. So on this Honda, we're going to use a 5/8 16mm to take out each spark plug. So what I did was I broke it loose by hand and then used my power tool to remove them. To loosen them up. I wouldn't recommend that unless you know what you're doing. Now I've removed all the spark plug. We're going to inspect the spark plug, make sure everything looks fine. Everything looks good on there. It doesn't look burnt or nothing. The tips and the gap looks the same on all. So we'll put that to the side. While you're at it, inspect down the cylinder. I like to do that just to see if it's flooded or anything. Everything looks fine. Now we're going to do compression test. So the first thing you're going to do with a compression test kit is you're going to find the right connection. And you can either use each one and go down each hole, or you can match it with the Sparkplug. And let's see here. It might be this one. So go ahead and put that in there and see if it fits. And it does. So I'm going to start out at cylinder 1. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then screw it in there. I'm going to get my gauge here and connect it. And right now PSI is at 0. And we'll put that there. Hopefully you can see the reading there. You probably can't, but let me get a little close. Start up the car and it should turn over at least 5 times, and then the PSI should go up. And we're gonna write the reading of each PSI, or try to remember each PSI, and then match all 4 cylinders to it. So that one was at about 170. Okay. Release the pressure. We're going to move it to the other. We're going to go down to cylinder 2. fit. And we're going to see what the compression on that is. So I don't know if y'all noticed. Okay, so the compression on that is at about 130. But if y'all notice, when I was doing compression, coolant was shooting out of that cylinder. So that means the cylinder's flooded. That means the coolant is going inside the engine. So we'll go ahead and continue on the compression. Go to the next side. So the history on this vehicle is it overheated, and put a new radiator and everything, and tried to find out where the coolant actually was leaking. And now I know where it's going into. It's actually going into cylinder 1. Because it's only shooting out of cylinder 1, so that means the head gasket needs to be changed. So let's go ahead and do a compression on cylinder 3. Okay, and let's go from there. So on cylinder 2, the compression is at 130. Okay. We'll go ahead and go to the next one. So average for normal compression on a 4-cylinder engine like this, its normal compression would be, or PSI compression would be 130. So what you saw on the first cylinder being at like 170, 180 is because it's soaked with coolant. And so with that being said, compression can be high because there's a lot of, it's called a wet compression. There's dry and there's wet. When you fill it up with fluid, oil, whatever, compression can be higher because the piston is holding that liquid in there. Alright, so let's do the last compression, and that's number 4. So I'm pretty sure, since the vehicle didn't start, it's because cylinder 1 was filled with coolant. So I bet you, for me shooting all that coolant out of that cylinder, I bet you once I put the spark plug back on, and it's funny because the spark plug didn't look wet when I pulled it out. So once I put everything back together, I bet it'll actually start up. So let's do the compression on cylinder 4, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be at 130 psi. And looks like the compression PSI is at 90. Let's try that again. That's not a good sign. It's a lower compression. compression is at 90. So on cylinder, so we got 180, 130, 130, and then 90. And coolant is shooting out of cylinder 1. So let's go ahead and put this back in cylinder 1 and do a compression since a lot of coolant is shot out already. And see if there's any change. So as you can see, since the coolant has shot out, compression is actually low now. And that may be the case of the battery probably dying. So let me put a jumper box to this. And then we'll do cylinder 1 and cylinder 4. I hooked up the jumper box to the battery, because all that starting up probably killed the battery. So low power can give low compression. So we're going to test the cylinder 1 and cylinder 4 again. So it looks like cylinder 1's at 60 psi. After shooting all that coolant out, at first it was at 170, 180. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and move to number 4 and retest that. That was at 90. Let's see where it's at now. Let's see what. Alright. So cylinder, so that's PSI cylinder number 4 dropped down to 60 as well. So cylinder 1 and 4 is at 60 psi, and cylinder 2 and 3 is at 130. Let's go ahead and test 3 and 2 and 3 once more, and see if it stays steady at 130. Okay, let's test it one more time. Well, now that's odd. Compression is showing 0. So now the compression is showed at 90, but it dropped. So let's check. 3. 3 is while I'm doing this, I'm letting the coolant shoot out of that cylinder, the first cylinder. But I know I'm gonna have to change the head gasket on this vehicle, just because coolant is going into the motor. I was gonna put it on the windshield. Okay, so compression still shows 130 on 3. So here's the result on this compression test. So the results, or the outcome of this, is pretty much bad head gasket. I mean, for coolant to shoot out of cylinder 1, that's already a bad sign. With compression being really high when it was flooded, that was because it was flooded with coolant, and compression will be high when it's called a wet compression test. Either you do it with oil, or supposed to do it with oil. But with the coolant kind of cleared out of cylinder 1, compression was at 60. Cylinder 2, compression started out at 130, but then later we tested it, and it wouldn't hold compression. It would just start leaking. That means gaskets worn between 1 and 2. On 3, compression was good. It was at 130. And then on 4, compression was at 90. I want to say that's okay, but again, I'm gonna say it wasn't close to 130. But it did hold compression. It didn't leak, so it didn't drop or anything. So I want to say 3 and 4 was okay or good, and 1 and 2 was not. So the results to this test come down to this needs a new head gasket, and this vehicle has overheated and was able to start up and run again, but after all that, still the engine needs a new head gasket. So if this video has been helpful, please like it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'll be making a video on how to change the head gasket on this car, so stay tuned.